Last week I posted this project, this oak urn, very nice piece of wood, really good fun to turn, and one of the things I've been toying with for a long time is doing this, a bird on there with pyrography, and I've also had that lid set up on the shelf. If you'll watch the video, that was just a solid lump of resin, but it's really beautiful with the U sat inside of there. It really is lovely, and I've been dying to use it for a long time. However, I think I picked the wrong project to use it for. I think that is, as nice as that is, it's actually too small for that, and I think this piece is far too nice to have something like that on it. So what I intend to do in this video is call it a take two. I'm going to make a new lid for it. I'm going to sand that off, and also because that beautiful grain on there, I'm going to sand it all back down again, and I'm going to use gold embellishing wax, and I think all that gold will just sit down inside there and just enhance that grain even more. Now hopefully I'll get a much better project at the end of it. So the first thing I need to get this set up is between centres. Now I have showed you this tool before, and I made this up. That will go inside of there. That will go inside of there like that, and I can adjust it on that spindle till it touches the bottom, like that. And then that piece I hold in the 3-jaw chuck. That I'll bring up with my centre, and effectively it's pinched between there and there. That piece on that end will hold that solid in there, because if you just had you could turn a piece of wood that went straight in there up through there, but there'd be nothing to stop that from flapping around like that. So with that piece in there, that holds it all absolutely solid. I have taken the chucking point off there. I will try to find as true as I can, but I'm only sanding, I'm not turning, so it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but it still needs to be as close as I can get to it. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, make that urn, sand it down, take that woodpecker off. So as you see, it goes in there, that's at the bottom of there, that will set up on there, and then all I have to do is just bring that nut up to there, and then the butterfly nut, just lock those two in place, and then because that's so far out the chuck now, I can screw that in, and I'll let the lathe just do that. Close enough. So first thing I'm going to do is just take that off of there. I've got a 180 sanding pad in there. So now I'm going to take all of that wax and sanding sealer off. I'll start the lathe off relatively slow. That's about 500, I don't need to get much more than that for sanding. Bit of sand sealer. Then apply some gold embellishing wax. I just apply this in a circular motion because I want it to sit down in that grain. If I went up and down, you'd be wiping it out of the grain as fast as you put it in there. This is a bit where I really want it on this side, because that's some beautiful grain. You can see it sitting down in already. Clean bit of cloth, take off all the excess. Right, that's all finished now. Now I can turn the new lid. So I've got this piece of ash, been kicking around my garage for a while, already had a tenon on it, and first thing I want to do is turn it to size. So I'll set my calipers just slightly smaller than the lid of that urn, just mark it on that piece of ash and then quickly rough that away. I found that new carbide tip tool does rough that wood away very quickly. So I just need to rip that all down, get it down to somewhere around the size I want, and then we can just clean it all up later on. Now I just need to face it off, just get it all nice and flat, and then the very next thing I need to do on there, I've set the calipers now to the size of the hole, just slightly bigger. So I'm just coming in again, just roughing this away, just trying to get down somewhere close. Obviously with the use of YouTube, I'm going to make this a perfect fit the very first time. And there we have, perfect fit. So now we can just concave that. And let's just cut the chuck in there. So I do. Right, I'll sand that up. This will sand it down to 240. The sand and sealer. Beautiful grain in that ash. Some fantastic grain on there. Right, let's turn that around and finish the top. So now I'm going to take this down. Obviously I need to lose all of that there, which is ideal, and I need to lose most of that. That's pretty much as thin as I need to go. What I want is just a small, almost like a double lid there. So I just want to go in a bit there. What I'll do now is just put I think that's 20mm cutter straight down in there. Now to turn the finial for the top, I've got a piece of offcut of Sapele here, probably about 30mm square, and I'm just using my carbide tip tool again. Just put a tenon on one end, put it in the forge all chuck, and now I'm just roughing it all down. Use my spindle gauge now going through because I want to put a nice taper on that, and I'm making full use of these tools now. So here I'm going just tapering the top. I did take away the revolving centre on the end, but I was getting too much vibration on there, and the lathe kept cutting out. I wish I knew how to turn that off. So I've got a little classic teardrop shape on the end to start with, and then I put a bead in behind that, and then I just taper all that down. When I went to sand that, I could feel a small ridge in there, and so I decided to come back in with my round tool and just give it a real concave in there. I thought it looks a lot nicer. A bit of sand and sealer. Now I was going to spray that ebonizing black, but I quite like the look of that. Now again, because the top of that lid is concave, no, convex, it's convex, I need to make sure that there's a recess in there for it to sit down flat. That's done, spray it off. That's beautiful. Oh, there you go, YouTubers. One iron. Nice, well-fitting lid. Oak. Gold embellishing wax. Bit of improvement, I think. I like that better. Well, thank you for watching. Thank you for your patience and your perseverance. I'll see you all again next week. You look after yourself. Bye bye.